I've personally never worked with smarter, more passionate people in my career. I think everyone is truly willing and open to learn new things, to try new things, to not rest on their laurels of we're the number one beauty company in the world. It's like, yes. And we still have to continue to work every day to serve the consumers that we have.
Explore the minds and marketing strategies behind today's winning brands and businesses. Tap into the power of the creator economy with Earned by Creator IQ. Here's Conor Begley.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Earned. I've got Neahle Jones on the show today. Welcome to the show, Neahle.
Great. Thank you for having me.
And it is so fun to see this come full circle because you were one of my earliest relationships in this industry. It's crazy to think about how far back that goes now.
That is true, but let's not talk actual years. It's been a while, but let's not talk actual years.
Let's talk about what you're doing today. So you are at L'Oreal. You're the VP of US Consumer Engagement over the CPD division, which has like NYX and Garnier and L'Oreal Paris and Maybelline, right? So some of the biggest brands. Congrats. It's got to be exciting.
It is. It's super exciting. I've been now at L'Oreal for 9 years, and it's crazy for me to say that. And specifically, I'm working for all of our brands that are what you would in the business call like your mass consumer brands, but those that are really at the heart of how do we reach your everyday beauty consumer and really make sure that it's super accessible. So being able to touch those brands is amazing. And I really have the opportunity to help all of them and support all of them and support the division in social strategy, advocacy, influencer strategy, and also a little bit of in-house creative as well, which is interesting, but it's been really fun.
Is there a part of it that you like more than the others, the creative side or the influencer side?
I don't think so. I mean, they're all interchangeable at this point because at some point it was, we have to do specific creative and it's got to be campaign and highly produced by a creative agency. But today everything's democratized and a lot of the best performing creative is those that you've done with creators. So it's a mix of how do you work with creators to do content, but also how do you do for a brand is called creator style content or things that make the brand more human.
Yeah, that's definitely been an evolution in our journey. Like we used to really focus purely on like, okay, how do I get to the post? Like I send them a gift, I might pay them, I'm gonna do all these different things to get the content. But now like that content is being used more and more in ads, it's being used more and more on the website, in emails. Like it's pretty cool to watch that evolution of the space.
It is. It's a complete change from the early days as just a magazine, so to speak. If you go back to, again, showing my age, but if you think of creators as the magazines of today and just going with them, here's a product, it's new and pitching at them versus how do you invite them into the story and really build a community with them is really where we are today and inviting them to be part of the brand versus, a mouthpiece for the brand, which doesn't work with consumers today either.
I love when people say things that confirm my worldviews and they're smart people. How do you guys go about building community, right? Because I think that's more traditionally known to be a thing that like the indie brands do, right? That's what they invest in. So it's pretty cool that at an organization as large as L'Oreal that you're talking about that the same way. How do you guys go about that? What are some of the approaches that you take?
I think every brand has to do that today because one, there's so many different brands and it doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 500 or a brand that's small and created in someone's bedroom, you're all going after the same consumer and we all pull from the same playbook in a way. I think because we're such huge brands, it does take a little bit more of an engine when there are thousands of people locally and globally who reach out to you. It's trying to find the right way to connect with them. So having teams that are still doing your traditional community management, monitoring comments and finding out who's reaching out to you. Your first step has to be to answer the specific questions that they are, but that they ask about the product or where can I purchase it? But your second layer has to always be finding those people who are really just about your brand and are super fans, really love it, and are sparking conversations that make so much sense for you. I love sitting down and going, this person really loves this Maybelline lipstick, or this person loves Essie, and passing it on to my brand partners and going, go reach out to them and see if you can do it. And then having going, darn, they're in Brazil. We can't do it, but let's pass it on to the Brazil team and see what they can do. And it's just being part of the community yourself to monitor that really has to be. And I don't want to discount it because it's a lot of work and it's day in and day out. And I have so much respect for our community managers across all of our brands. It is an all day, 7 day a week job.
Honestly, I think people have a hard time grasping just how big the volume is. For a brand like Maybelline, be hundreds of thousands of pieces of influencer content a year. That's like a large team's job. And that's just influencer content. That's not even like consumer stuff, right? Consumer gets even higher.
Absolutely. They're not huge teams you would think is like, we have an army. We don't. And many, many brands don't. I think in the US, we're super mature in terms of an influencer market compared to other countries. But for the most part, I think we're all still learning and figuring out how to build the right organizations because the platforms have grown so much, especially over the past few years. So that always requires us to be looking at optimizing our structure and thinking about what makes the most sense and figuring out what partners we need to bring in, what we need to in-house versus outsource and things like that. And that's an ongoing conversation, as I'm sure it is for everybody.
Yeah, you're always like trying to predict where should I be putting my time, my effort, my money. I mean, you guys are killing it on TikTok. Where do you think the platform's going to go from here?
I like to look at weak signals, and there's a few things that I've been paying attention to, especially in beauty. So one is that there's a lot of talk and a lot of influencers that are going back to YouTube to do long form. I know it is definitely I can make more money there from a creator standpoint, but also I think there's interesting things from some of the OG creators who miss doing that type of content and who are going, wait, I actually want some more information. I want a longer explanation and I want more detail than a 30-second TikTok. Jackie Ina posted something a few days ago, I think it was last week, around are people looking for that? How hard it was for the creators themselves to do because it's a lot of work. So I do see a little bit of a pendulum swing back to some of that more trusted, more long form, more torture test, so to speak, content coming from creators because of the fact that I think there is so much of a need for, okay, I know, but do you really believe that? Or is someone paying you to? Because we have to pay attention to that as brands as well. I think the other piece is the short form's not going to go away. It's just how you use it. I think we've gone a lot of I have to do this one thing and I have to sell you this product in 30 seconds. And what are the benefits? And what is this? Or maybe up to a minute. But I think how you do that is changing. And that is where the rubber meets the road. And some brands are thriving in that in terms of turning it on its head, thinking about content as entertainment. And how do I tell this in a very interesting way? Whether it's through, the lens of nostalgia or bringing in creators that might not necessarily be the first that you go to in beauty, or really just making it fun and not taking it so seriously. That really works on TikTok. It really works on Reels as well. And in terms of how do I do this in a little bit of a fun, interesting way and do what everybody else is doing and not take yourself so seriously. And those are the brands that seem to be thriving definitely on TikTok. If you look at Maybelline and doing a post with Martha Stewart and Bretman Rock, why would you do that? But it's entertaining. It's something that is new and different.
In some ways, it feels like you're kind of exposing yourself. What impact is this having on the brand when like it's not perfectly polished and it's not exactly what you would expect, or it's not like, oh, this is what I would have drawn up in the playbook 10, 15, 20 years ago. But ultimately, that's the stuff that connects with consumers, right? Like that's the stuff that actually works.
Absolutely. It's not to say that you only need that. You need both. You maybe don't need a TV commercial in the same way you used to, but you still need your highly produced content alongside some of your more fun, less serious content, because it's all about How do you lean in? How do you interact with your audience and understanding your audience? There's still a huge amount of people that really just want beautiful content, the aesthetic content, the things that used to work on Instagram, in some case still do, that people still love that content. I'm one of those people. I still like looking at pretty images. But at the same time, I like a good laugh and I like for someone to put something out there that I like.
It seems like from the outside, the L'Oreal brands are on fire with influencers in general. What is it that, has caused you guys to be so successful and grow so rapidly within that space? I, from the outside, am a spectator here, so.
I believe it has been really looking at creators as partners, recognizing that they're also small businesses. I think there's a lot of people who look at them as, oh, it's influencers and we need to work with influencers. But I think the reminder that it's a small business in and of itself as well. And coming to the table with the let's work together and how do we work best together. And of course, there's also what everyone will say, which is let the creator be the creator. You went to them for a reason. And that's absolutely true. But at the end of the day, it's also figuring out how and who is part of your tribe and part of your community, who are the people that you lean into and you support as well. And the reminder that it's not a one and done. I think there's a lot of, okay, let's put some things out there and work great. We've worked with you on this campaign. That's it. We'll never work with you again. We're on to the next one. But, really making sure that you're building relationships with creators in the same way you would with a consumer, or they can be loyal just like any consumer can be loyal. How do you work with them and give them the freedom to do what they need to do, what they do best, but also really show up as a strong partner, being with them through whatever may happen. Last year was a tough year, especially for male creators, and making sure that we're supporting them through vitriol that comes at them and really ensuring that we're standing alongside them, not just behind them. And really making sure that you're taking the time to identify the creators that work for you and not just chasing everyone. I think that's a very easy thing to do. And of course, you work with a lot of big creators, but also making sure you're continuing to work with those that are already fans of your brand, already reaching out, already want to be part of the community. It's very key.
Yeah. And that's, again, what we've seen across the brands that have done it outside of the L'Oreal kind of ecosystem is this kind of long-term mindset that you're talking about, right? Like investing in this partnership over time. And honestly, if you look at the data, it's very supportive of that, right? So like the best predictor of growth that we have is retention. Yes, you got them in, great. Okay, Vogue's talking about you. Can you keep it around, right? Like, can you keep them talking about you for the next decade? That's the real goal from what we've seen.
Absolutely. And remembering that when we're thinking about beauty specifically, so much of trend starts with creators. So much of the onset of the products that people want to use and continue to use, the aesthetics that happen start with creators. So you can't discount them and you can't just say, oh, okay, great. Here, do this. Here's a script you need to follow. And here's what you need to do. And that just doesn't work today. It makes people not want to work with you again. Or, find those moments where it's like, I'm going to slide over here and I'll work with this brand instead, because it's the same thing as if when you're working for a specific company and you really love working for them or you don't. And, I had a good time, but I would never go back. Or if another opportunity, I've left for opportunity, but if something came up, I would go back there in a heartbeat. That's the feeling you want for creatives, they're your partners.
One of the things I've always really wanted to build is essentially like a glass door, right? Where the creators could enter or could leave reviews about working with the brands, like payment terms, what they were like to work with, how much they got paid, etc. Because I think that information would be really valuable to other people, right?
I would love to do because then for us as companies, it goes, oh, we need to do better at this. Or even for understanding, okay, that's what works and that's what doesn't work. I think that would be great for creators. And as someone way back in like the WordPress Blogspot days, this is how I started. Like I went, I'm going to jump in this. And I had a blog and I was doing all of this. And then I went, ooh, I don't have time to do this with my day job. And in hindsight, I'm like, ooh, I should have stayed the course. I could be making so much money. But at the same time, I have a lot of friends. That's what they do, full time. And I talk to them all the time about what do you like and what do you not like and what makes a lot of sense. They'll be very honest. Brands today seem to get it a lot more. And I think it depends on the category as well. I think for beauty, we've been in it so long. With other industries that are still learning and still figuring it out, you see other brands who are still leaning in and going, oh, okay, this is how you work with a creator. It's great.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the different categories come to maturity. Like beauty was first, gaming was kind of there around the same time. And then more recently, the one that's really blowing up is food, right? I just saw a report come out from Numerator where between just Feastables and Prime, the amount of household penetration for influencer founded brands in food has just exploded. And so that's got that whole category paying attention.
Not surprised. And you would think that they would have known that sooner. A lot of the blog started as like recipes. The long running trope of I have to go through all this article to actually get to the recipe. And it's just a story. But I mean, it's been that way. And they transitioned very quickly to TikTok and Instagram, but definitely TikTok where a lot of things took off. Because I do find that TikTok is a place where people go to immediately learn and figure things out because I get it quickly. I understand it. I can go recreate it. And that's the power of that platform. I think knowing that from a food perspective, how many recipes did we have go viral? The feta cheese pasta and other things that happened at a time. So I'm surprised it took as long as it did, but it was very clear they were, oh no, we need to be in this space.
It's just hitting me how big the magnitude of the shift is going to be in food. You think about like, what's my connection to XYZ pasta brand? Nothing. And just like in the same way that like Feastables is disrupting like Hershey's and stuff. It's Hershey's. I like the brand, but I'm not personally connected. There's no person there. It's going to be crazy. Like food is such a big category.
Huge. And I think a lot of that may be tied to nostalgia, but also family. It happens in beauty as well. So it may be like my mom used this brand, and so I have to use it. Or my grandma used to always use this particular jar of sauce. I know that one. I know the label because I remember it from her kitchen. And it's the same thing when you think about getting older and when it comes to beauty. Oh, my mom uses this specific skincare serum, or my grandma always had this fragrance. And so I buy it because it smells like her. And I do think that there's a strong hit of also, oh, wow, remember when we made those beauty mistakes way back when, how we've changed and how things have happened. But then as you still have those connections to certain things. And I think there are some brands that have recognized that as well, where it is like our consumers have this connection with us through generations. So how do we lean into that?
Yeah, I think the flow of information has shifted a lot. I think a lot about what you said, which is, oh, my mom did this, so now I do it. But now I think it's like reversing, and you're seeing like kids are discovering stuff on social and then teaching the parents about it, right? This report I saw was so cool. It just came out, this Numerator report, which is like Nielsen, IRI, right? Those guys. They looked at 50,000 people that had bought influencer founded brands. And this was either in beauty or in food. Those are the two categories they looked at. And what was really interesting was when they separated it out by age, half of the consumers that were like millennials, like knew who the founder was, right? Like they knew who the influencer was. But the older generations, it was like 25%, right? The vast majority didn't even know who the influencer was, but the way they had heard about it was through friends and family, right? Their kids or their like family was like, oh, this is really cool, you should buy it. But they don't even know who the influencer is behind it.
And that's the dream, isn't it? The point is to get to a point where it's just, hey, we need to do this, and this makes so much sense, and we want to try X, and it's, oh, that's the person who founded it. That's cool, but it's just about the product itself. Sometimes you want to get there, and the word of mouth, it's great. I would love to say that that was me. It's kind of the opposite with me and my mom because she's retired now. My mom's a little bit younger and is on Instagram all day. I refuse to introduce her to TikTok because I know it'd be the opposite with me. So all she does all day is send me different memes and different products that she's found. And I'm like, okay, mom, okay. But every now and then I'm like, oh, I never knew that one. What's this?
I love it. We've talked a lot about kind of influencers and that kind of stuff. I want to talk a little bit about your career because I think there's a lot of people that aspire to get to where you've gotten to in your career. So congratulations on that. I'm curious, you've been at L'Oreal for 9 years, but prior to that, you were more in the agency world for around 12 years, or maybe even a little bit longer. Is that a path you'd recommend to others? And how do you think that time on the agency side impacted your ability to be successful more on the brand side?
I loved my time on the agency side. It gave me a really strong foundation. I know it was such a big part of me being right brain, left brain. And so being able to ingest data and pull out insights from that, which is so key when you're on the inside and being able to understand what data is coming through because there's nothing but endless reams of it. But being able to look through it and see the patterns and really understand this is something to pay attention to. This is just a blip and this is what it means. I definitely credit my time being at the agency for being able to do that. And I have a media background in agency. So I was doing media planning and communications planning before I moved to L'Oreal. So I think it helped a lot with strategy, with understanding, like I said, being able to pull insights from data, and then also collaborative leadership, really understanding how to work within an integrated agency team where we all obviously have different business needs and different business outcomes. And on occasion, we're pitching against one another. But in that room, we need to know how to work together to get to a common goal. And I truly believe being able to do that and work through that, but then lead through that before a transition helped a lot for getting into on the brand side where you have to look through data. You have to be able to build a strategy that then can help with your business partners and your agency partners. And then also being able to navigate cross-functionally. And yes, you're all working to a common goal, but you all also have other KPIs. So really understanding how to be a strong partner and wield that influence internally. I truly credit my time on the agency side to be able to do that.
In some ways, if you think about the role that you're in now, where you've got a number of brands that you're overseeing and you're providing guidance, consultancy, et cetera to them, it's not actually that dissimilar other than, now you own the number a little bit more.
Yes. No, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, we all have that goal now. But I do believe it is super helpful to have that background to be able to navigate and understand multiple brand strategies, multiple consumer audiences, multiple brand personas, because Maybelline is different from NYX, is different from L'Oréal Paris, is different from Garnier, it's different from Carol's Daughter. They're all different. They're all reaching different consumers. But I have to keep that in my head all day to know if I'm speaking to this person, we have to understand the African-American natural hair consumer. But if I'm speaking to the SE consumer, I need the nail obsessed semi-pro, the person who really is interested in doing their own nails and wants to recreate looks from runways, etc. So really being able to think about that is like, I'm in this meeting and then 20 minutes later, I'm in this one. It's been really, really good to have that background. Yeah.
Totally. I think one of the other things I've always observed in terms of L'Oreal specifically is tenure, right? So you've been there since 2015, so coming up on 9, almost 10 years. Having been at a few different companies now, and now having been, I think this is your longest run, at least as far as I know, at one company.
Close to, yeah. I was at Mindshare for just over 10 years, most of it on Unilever.
But I do notice like L'Oreal, people kind of hang out for a while. What is it about the culture that has led to that longevity?
I personally never worked with smarter, more passionate people in my career. I think everyone is truly willing and open to learn new things, to try new things, to not rest on their laurels of we're the number one beauty company in the world. It's like, yes. And we still have to continue to work every day to serve the consumers that we have. And I think that is admirable. And I go in and I know my peers go in every day and go, how do we bring beauty to every consumer? And how do we do that new and different? And are we serving the people that generally need to? I also have credited with never being told, okay, let's do this, but we'll get to that later. Always being able to have a voice and be able to say, maybe we need to do this. And someone go, okay, show me how you think, and have that opportunity to always bring a new idea or a new concept. Not to say it'll happen immediately, but the passion goes a really long way. I love having that opportunity to say, you know what? Maybe we should do Essence Festival. And I know it hasn't been something, but this is a consumer that's super important to us. It's a big opportunity. Let's think about it. And to bring that to life last year, in years where we had walked away from festivals, we hadn't done other things, was really a great opportunity to also showcase it's a consumer we need to lean into, and one that was so eager to see us. And I would say a great moment of seeing them want to interact with our brands in person. And so having those opportunities to bring new things and new ideas, no matter how crazy it may sound, we're very much encouraged to be entrepreneurial. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's not super common inside larger organizations, that encouragement.
Having been there, I know. I remember where it's not a common thing, which is why I've stuck around as long as I have. And I really do truly enjoy it.
Yeah. I know you also invest quite a bit on the mentorship side, I'd imagine within L'Oreal's walls, but externally as well. How do you do that? Like, is it something that you do? Is it informal? People just come to you? Are there organizations that you're a part of that you're a really big fan of?
I think it's a mix of both. So I'm a firm believer in making sure I leave doors open as I walk through them and helping others behind me. So I've done mentorship on both angles, from being, a Black woman in marketing and making sure that I'm helping people who also want to be in this space, but also just junior marketers in general, or people who want to move from agency side to brand side. I'm always an open book, and I love being an open book. I will say that I've done two. So I've done a couple of mentorship programs through a couple of Black and Fashion Council, and just through like my old university, through St. John's University, which is where I went. And then the other is just naturally from being at other things and people coming up to me and going, hey, can we talk? And really being open to having an open dialogue. And sometimes it may just be a couple of emails. Other times it may be, yeah, let's grab a coffee. I have a couple of mentors who I've had for years, or mentees who I got through a couple of other programs. And one is based in Texas. We've never met in person, but we do Google Meets chat once a month. And another, when we first met, she also lived in Texas. She now lives in New York, and she works in beauty. So it's been great to have those moments.
Yeah, it's always satisfying in both directions, hopefully, to actually be helpful to somebody and to like have advice actually impact their lives. I think the one that's weirdest for me is when you have somebody that comes back years later and it's like, by the way, when you said XYZ, it impacted my life in this way. And it's like, people are listening.
You never know who's watching you. And I always sit and think about the people who came before me and who were more than willing to have conversations with me. There's even people at L'Oreal who are no longer there, have retired, have moved on, and we still keep very much in contact because they were mentors for me when I first got to the organization, and we've stayed very close, one of which I travel with now. It's really trying to find those people and me trying to be that same person for others behind me. There's no secret sauce. It's just you figure it out as you go. And sometimes it's good to let people know nobody's perfect. Things change, things happen. It's all how you navigate, and really being able to tell people that and give them, it's like, it's okay. It'll happen for you. And here's how you can navigate the situation. What I love to do to help people.
Let's do one fun end of show question. So I noticed we both have lots of books in our background. Yours is a cooler looking setup than mine. If there was a book that I should read, or a couple books that you think people should read, what would they be?
One is, and I just started reading this, is called For the Culture. It's by Marcus Collins, who I know most people know. He's a professor and he started at Wyden Kennedy. And so he's been teaching a lot about how to market today. So for me, I love it because it's very relevant to what we do and really to move away from the traditional concept of demographics and how we do things, but really start to think about how you move with culture and move at the speed of culture and what that means. The other book is Range by David Epstein. And in a world where everyone wants to be a specialist, like you're a specialist, you know what to do and you know this thing. It was a good book for me to read because I like being like a jack of all trades in digital. And I've done everything from mostly in content and comms, but doing content creation, which I've never done before now, but also I've done TV buying and media planning, all of these different things. But it helps to provide a general and a very strategic perspective on how things work. So it's a really good book about thinking about how you can be a generalist, not a specialist, and that it's okay to be a generalist and not a specialist. So it's a very good book for me.
Awesome. I'm going to have to pick those up. Although at this point, I've got 3 little ones. The pile of books I've got that I want to read is starting to outpace the ones that I've read.
I have all of these, like which ones, totally understanding.
I have a big book problem. I was a consumer until about 4 years ago. And now, not so much.
Same. I used to have a ton of them and then I just stopped buying. I got more in my previous role because I was doing a lot of organizational development and upskilling and digital change management. So it was like, oh, we need these other things to learn about organizations work. And then once I left that role, I haven't had time to read it either. Like, oh yeah, now I'm doing the work again. I can't have time to read.
Totally. Well, I really appreciate you taking out the time. Congrats again on all the personal success and all the success that you guys are seeing at L'Oreal. It's really impressive from the outside. I would imagine you'll get a few recruits after this one, which will be good.
If anyone reach out, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Earned by Creator IQ. Creator IQ is your all-in-one solution to grow, manage, scale, and measure your influencer marketing program. Ready to unlock the power of the creator economy? Get started with a demo today at creatoriq.com.